For most of history, medicine wasn't healing. It was guessing. Bad guessing. Today you'll see 33 real treatments so dumb, dangerous, and straight up insane, they make leech therapy look reasonable. Tobacco smoke, enemas, goat testicle implants, radioactive baby necklaces. This isn't fiction, it's what passed for healthcare. Ready to question everything? 1. So, your buddy falls into the river and you heroically pull him out. He's not breathing. Your immediate, medically approved action in the 18th century? Get ready to give him a tobacco smoke enema. I wish I was joking. The leading medical minds of the day decided that the best way to shock someone back to life was a hot blast of smoke to the colon. Imagine being the designated puffer. You're squatting there, looking like a deranged Sherlock Holmes, trying to light a pipe connected to a tube aimed at your friend's backside. Then the guy wakes up, sputtering water, looking around in a daze, and his first conscious thought is, did I just get violated by a ghost train? It's the only resuscitation method in history where the patient might have preferred to stay unconscious just a little bit longer. 2. Welcome to ancient Egypt, where if you had a toothache, your dental plan was basically a trip to the pet cemetery. The most popular cure involved taking a whole mouse, mashing it into a fine, chunky paste, and then packing that disgusting goo directly onto your sore gum. We're talking about mouse paste, the original all-natural remedy that guaranteed you'd never want to eat again. The logic behind it was presumably written by a cat. Imagine the process. You're in agony, and the dentist just shrugs, grabs a dead rodent, and starts pounding it with a rock. Was there a specific type of mouse that worked best? Did they have to be fresh? The questions are endless and horrifying. The only way this cure worked is if the trauma of the experience made your brain decide the tooth pain wasn't so bad after all. 3. You wake up with syphilis in the 16th century. Bad news. The good news is your doctor, a man who probably still thinks leeches are a food group, has a brand new miracle cure, Mercury. He'd instruct you to either swallow this liquid metal or rub it all over your body like you're trying to become the Silver Surfer. The sign of success? When you started drooling uncontrollably, like a rabid dog. Doctors would see this and high-five each other exclaiming, "It's working!" as your teeth fell out and your nervous system shut down. It's like trying to fix a leaky faucet by blowing up your entire house with dynamite. Sure, the leak is gone, but you've introduced a few slightly more significant problems. This wasn't a treatment. It was a slow, agonizing trade-off where you got to pick which horrible symptom you wanted to die from. 4. Picture the scene in old-timey England. You get a sudden violent nosebleed. Panic sets in. You run to the kitchen, pass the bandages, and head straight for the bacon. The accepted folk remedy was to literally jam a fatty strip of cured pork up your nostril. It's a solution that's equal parts disgusting and kind of brilliant in a redneck engineering sort of way. Think of the logistics. Do you use thick cut or regular? Applewood smoked for a more pleasant aroma? Can you imagine explaining this at a dinner party? Pardon me, I have to go attend to my nose bacon. It's the only first aid technique that doubles as an appetizer and ensures that every dog in the neighborhood will follow you home, hoping you have another medical emergency. 5. Medieval birth control was a wild ride into pure, unadulterated stupidity. One of the most popular methods for women was to acquire the testicles of a weasel, put them in a little pouch, and then tie that pouch to their thigh. Apparently, the anti-fertility vibes from a dead weasel's private parts were thought to be more effective than, say, just staying home. This is a level of pseudoscience so profound it's almost art. Who was the first person to come up with this? Some guy just looked at a weasel and thought, you know, I bet that thing's nuts could stop a baby. Was there a black market for these? Psst, hey lady, want to buy some grade A weasel gonads? Freshly harvested. It's a perfect example of a solution that was 100% ineffective and a 1000% weird. 6. You're in the Appalachian Mountains, you've got a bad cold, and you're out of options. The local folk wisdom has a clear directive. Go find a mule and kiss it, right on the mouth. No, not a peck on the cheek, a full-on slobbery smooch. The belief was that the mule, being a tough and stubborn animal, would transfer its powers of resilience to you through its saliva. Forget echinacea. They believed in the power of barnyard spit. Let's analyze this from the mule's point of view. It's having a perfectly normal day, eating hay, contemplating the meaning of life, and suddenly some sick human with a runny nose is trying to make out with it. It's less of a medical cure and more of a really weird form of animal harassment that probably gave the mule a cold. 7. Dr. John Harvey Kellogg wasn't just the inventor of bland cereal. He was a health tyrant obsessed with bowel movements. He believed constipation was the source of all sin, so at his luxurious health spa, he offered a unique solution: the mechanical horse. This wasn't a gentle rocking horse for kids. This was a violent, vibrating nightmare machine that rich people paid a fortune to sit on. It would buck and shake them with such intensity that it would literally jiggle their internal organs into action. It's the kind of insane, over-the-top cure you'd expect from a cartoon villain. Instead of just eating some prunes, his clients opted to be physically assaulted by a piece of furniture until their intestines surrendered. This was peak wellness for people whose bank accounts were much healthier than their common sense. 8. Long before we had the simple luxury of a tube of chapstick, the go-to solution for chapped lips was something you made yourself. It was organic, all natural, and came directly from your ear. Yes, the preferred lip balm of the medieval era was your own earwax. The instructions were simple. Just dig a little of that waxy gold out of your ear canal and smear it on your mouth. The logic is that wax is a good sealant, but that's like saying tar is a good skin cream because it's waterproof. Can you imagine getting ready for a big date? Hold on, honey, let me just apply a fresh coat of me. It's a DIY beauty tip so profoundly disgusting that it instantly explains why people in old paintings never seem to be smiling. They were probably just trying to hide their waxy lips. 9. So it's the Middle Ages, and the Black Death is rolling through town, wiping out half of Europe. People are desperate. What's the genius plan some folks came up with? To trap their own farts in a jar. And then, when the plague was near, they'd unseal the jar and take a big, deep whiff of their own home-brewed stench. The logic here is a masterpiece of flawed reasoning. They believed the plague was spread by deadly, sweet-smelling miasmas, or bad air. So, by inhaling something that smelled infinitely worse, like your own personal brand of week-old Taco Bell, you could create a protective barrier of pure foulness that the plague wouldn't dare penetrate. It's like trying to fight a dragon by showing it a picture of your mother-in-law. It wasn't just a medical treatment. It was a profound act of self-ownership and biological warfare against an invisible enemy. 10. Imagine going to the doctor in the old days because you're having trouble hearing. The doctor, a man of great wisdom, strokes his beard and says, "I have just the thing." He then goes into the kitchen, fries up some almonds in oil like he's making a side dish, and proceeds to pour the hot, nutty oil directly into your ear canal. This wasn't a prank. It was a legitimate treatment for deafness. The theory was, well, who the hell knows what the theory was? Maybe they thought the sound of sizzling nuts would jumpstart your eardrums. Or perhaps the warmth was considered therapeutic. All this really accomplished was probably giving you a first-degree burn deep inside your head and making you smell like a walking piece of baklava. It's a perfect example of historical medicine. When in doubt, just pour hot food into a body cavity and hope for the best. 11. Worried about that thinning hair on top? Forget Rogain. The hot medieval tip for preventing baldness was to get up close and personal with a cow. Specifically, you were supposed to collect fresh cow saliva and slather it all over your scalp. Yes, you were supposed to let a farm animal drool on your head in the hopes of sprouting new luscious locks. Someone, somewhere, must have seen a cow with a particularly full coat and thought, the secret must be in its spit. Can you imagine the commitment? You'd be out in a field every morning trying to coax a cow into drooling on you, while it just stares back with those big, dumb eyes, probably wondering what you did to deserve this fate. It's a hair care routine that guaranteed you'd smell like a barn, and that your baldness would remain completely, spectacularly uncured. 12. If you had a sore throat or a nasty cough back in the day, you didn't reach for a lozenge. You reached for a bottle of snail syrup, This delightful concoction was made by, you guessed it, taking a bunch of snails, often with a bit of sugar, and reducing them down into a thick, slimy syrup. People would then drink this slug mucus cocktail, believing its soothing, gooey properties would coat their throat and cure their ailment. Forget cherry or honey lemon flavor. This was essence of garden pest flavor. Imagine the texture. It's like trying to swallow a spoonful of regret. The fact that this was a common remedy for centuries proves that humanity's gag reflex is a lot weaker than we give it credit for. It's a cure that makes you think a sore throat isn't so bad after all. 13. Before we had fancy blood tests and MRIs, how did a doctor diagnose your illness? By tasting your urine. This wasn't some weird party trick. It was a respected diagnostic tool called uroscopy. A physician, often called a piss prophet, would hold a flask of your pee up to the light, swirl it around like a fine wine, check the color and smell, and then, for the grand finale, take a little sip. They believed they could detect illnesses like diabetes by its sweet taste. Imagine your doctor's visit. Well, Bob, I'm getting notes of asparagus and a hint of kidney failure, with a surprisingly robust sugary finish. That'll be 20 shillings. These guys were the original sommeliers of human waste, making a living by doing something that would get you kicked out of a public pool today. 14. The doctrine of signatures was a medical theory that was as simple as it was stupid. It stated that God had kindly marked plants to show us what they were good for. So, if a plant looked like a body part, that's what it cured. Got a kidney problem? Eat some kidney beans. Is your brain feeling a bit foggy? Chow down on a walnut because it looks like a tiny brain. Experiencing heart trouble? Slice open a tomato and look at its 4 chambers. This is medicine for people who failed kindergarten coloring books. It's a system that completely ignores things like, chemistry or biology, and instead relies on playing a game of vegetable Pictionary. It's a miracle anyone survived, considering they never found a plant that looked like a common sense gland. 15. So, you're wandering through Italy in the 15th century, and you get bitten by a tarantula. The venom is coursing through your veins. The cure? Not anti-venom. The cure was to dance. And not just any dance, but a wild, frantic, non-stop dance called the tarantella. The belief was that by engaging in hours of frenzied, sweaty dancing, you could sweat the venom out of your system, or that the rapid movement would somehow prevent the poison from settling. Musicians would be called to play furiously while the victim flailed around, sometimes for days, until they either collapsed from exhaustion or felt better. It was less of a medical treatment and more of a life-or-death rave. It's an interesting approach. I might be dying, but I'm going to go out with some killer dance moves. 16. In the 18th century, if you had a drinking problem, some physicians had a solution that was designed to gross you into sobriety. The treatment for alcoholism involved taking a live eel and putting it into a container of wine. The eel would eventually die and decompose in the booze, creating a truly disgusting alcoholic beverage. The patient was then forced to drink this eel-infused nightmare fuel. The idea was that the sight, smell, and taste of this horrific concoction would create such a profound sense of revulsion towards alcohol that the person would never want to touch a drop of it again. It's not exactly a 12-step program. It's more of a one-step program that involved traumatizing your gag reflex into submission. It's aversion therapy at its most slimy and desperate. 17. Picture this. You're an ancient Egyptian who just got a nasty cut. You need an antiseptic ointment, stat. Do you look for some clean bandages? Of course not. You go find the nearest crocodile and wait for it to take a dump. That's right. The go-to wound ointment for a time was fresh crocodile dung. People would scoop up this green, chunky treasure and smear it directly into their open wounds, believing it's something had powerful healing properties. The logic was likely based on the fact that crocodiles are tough SOBs, so their poop must be tough too. In reality, they were just packing their injuries with reptile feces, a substance famously teeming with bacteria and parasites. It was less of an antiseptic and more of a, let's see how many new infections we can introduce at once, science experiment. It's a miracle ancient Egypt didn't collapse from a plague of poop-borne tetanus. 18. Got a really bad migraine in prehistoric times? The solution was simple, elegant, and absolutely terrifying. Skull drilling, also known as trepanation. A shaman or early doctor would take a sharp piece of flint and literally drill a hole in your head to let the evil spirits out. This wasn't a metaphor. They were physically removing a piece of your skull to relieve the pressure, or the demons, or whatever they thought was causing the headache. Imagine having a migraine so bad that you agree to let a guy named Grog go to town on your cranium with a rock. The fact that some people actually survive this procedure is a testament to the sheer resilience of the human body and the low standards for medical success at the time. Well, he's still breathing and the headache's gone. Also, there's a hole in his head. I'd call that a win. 19. In the early 20th century, a doctor named John R. Brinkley became one of the richest men in America with a single insane idea. If you're a man feeling a little low on energy or potency, he could fix you by implanting goat testicles into your scrotum. Yes, for a hefty fee, this medical maverick would surgically attach a piece of a goat's gonad to your own. He marketed it as a miracle cure for everything from infertility to flatulence, and desperate men lined up by the thousands. He built a massive radio station to hawk his services, becoming a superstar of bio-horror surgery. This wasn't some hidden back-alley procedure. It was mainstream madness. It's the ultimate example of a placebo effect fueled by pure, unadulterated desperation and the charming allure of having goat nuts. 20. For centuries, alchemists and the ultra-rich were obsessed with one thing: immortality. And one of the most popular and most expensive ways to try and achieve it was by drinking gold. They would dissolve gold into a liquid, creating a beverage called potable gold, and chug it down, believing that the metal's incorruptible nature would be transferred to their bodies. Rich nobles and even popes were huge fans of this golden Gatorade. The only problem is that gold is, a heavy metal. While it's mostly inert, consuming it, especially when dissolved with strong acids, was just a really fancy way of poisoning yourself. It's the peak of wealthy stupidity, being so rich that you decide your internal organs are overrated, and you'd rather just fill them with shiny metal. It didn't make you immortal, but it did guarantee you'd have the most fabulous autopsy in history. 21. You're a parent in the 1920s, and your baby won't stop crying because of teething pain. What do? You head to the store and buy them a nice, calming, radioactive necklace. I'm not kidding. Companies sold devices like the Radium, which contained actual radium, and instructed parents to strap them to their babies' necks or even directly to their jaws. The theory was that the gentle, healing rays of radiation would soothe the gums and calm the child. They were basically giving their infants a low-dose radiation treatment to shut them up. It's a parenting choice that's so mind-bogglingly dangerous, it sounds like it was invented by a cartoon villain. Nothing says, "I love you, my child," quite like accessorizing them with a literal radioactive rock. 22. In the 16th and 17th centuries, there was a popular health pill made of antimony, a toxic metalloid. But here's the kicker. The pill was designed to be eternal. You would swallow it, it would cause you to violently vomit and purge everything from your system, and then you would retrieve the pill from your poop. After a good rinse, it was ready to be used again, or, even better, passed down through the family. These everlasting pills were valuable heirlooms, a treasured family possession that had collectively traveled through the intestinal tracts of generations. Here you go, son. This is the pill your great-grandfather used to clear out his humors. Don't lose it in the latrine. It's the only medicine in history that was both a potent laxative and a disgusting family legacy. 23. During the early 20th century health craze, one of the most popular spa treatments was colonic hydrotherapy, or as it should have been called, internal power washing. People would willingly pay to have gallons upon gallons of water, sometimes up to 20 gallons, shot up their rectum through a hose. Promoters claimed it could cure everything from arthritis to depression by flushing out toxins from the colon. In reality, all it did was give you a very clean, very empty, and very irritated bowel, while also running the risk of perforating your intestines or causing a fatal electrolyte imbalance. It was a fashionable way to essentially waterboard yourself from the inside out, all in the name of wellness. It proves that people have always been willing to do incredibly weird things if you tell them it's good for them. 24. Before the discovery of antibiotics, tuberculosis was a devastating killer. And one of the most bizarre cures promoted by so-called health gurus was sungazing. Patients with TB were instructed to go outside and stare directly at the sun. The idea was that the powerful, pure rays of the sun would enter the body through the eyes and kill the disease from the inside. This wasn't just a casual glance. People were told to do this for extended periods. The only guaranteed result of this therapy wasn't a cure for tuberculosis, but permanent retinal damage and blindness. It's a medical strategy so profoundly dumb, it feels like it was invented by the sun itself as a prank. You have a lung disease? Yeah, totally, just stare at me for a while. It'll be fine, I promise. 25. During the Renaissance, having big, dreamy, doe-like eyes was all the rage. To achieve this look, women turned to a beauty hack that was as effective as it was terrifying. They used eye drops made from the Belelladana plant, also known as deadly nightshade. A few drops would dilate the pupils to an almost comical size, creating a vacant, I'm either deeply interested or having a stroke kind of gaze. The name Belladonna literally means beautiful woman in Italian, which shows you how popular this was. The only tiny downside was that belladonna is a potent neurotoxin. It caused blurred vision, an inability to focus, and, with prolonged use, could lead to permanent blindness. It's the ultimate fashion statement, sacrificing your ability to see so that other people can see you better. 26. In the Roaring '20s, a wealthy socialite named Eben Byers swore by a new energy drink called Ratithor. It was basically just water laced with radium, and it was marketed as a cure for the living dead that would add vigor and vim to your life. Byers loved the stuff so much, he drank several bottles a day for years, claiming it made him feel fantastic. And it did, right up until his jaw literally fell off. The massive amounts of radiation he consumed disintegrated his bones from the inside out. When he died, he was so radioactive he had to be buried in a lead-lined coffin. Radithor is a perfect monument to that timeless American belief that if something is expensive and sounds scientific, it must be good for you. It didn't make you feel alive. It just made you very, very dead in the most spectacular way possible. 27. If you were a stressed-out parent in the 19th century, there was a miracle cure for your fussy baby, Mrs. Winslow's Soothing Syrup. It was advertised as the perfect solution for teething, colic, or any general baby-related noise, and it worked like a charm. Babies who took it slept peacefully for hours. Why? Because the main active ingredient was morphine. They were literally selling a bottle of opiate syrup for infants. A single teaspoon contained enough morphine to be dangerous for a child, leading to countless accidental overdoses, comas, and deaths. The product was so infamous, it earned the nickname the baby killer. It's a chilling reminder of a time when the solution to an annoying baby was to just drug it into quiet oblivion, proving that peace and quiet sometimes came at the ultimate price. 28. In the Victorian era, having pale, almost translucent skin was the height of fashion. It was a sign that you were a lady of leisure, not someone who toiled in the sun. To achieve this coveted ghostly look, women turned to a simple beauty product: arsenic. They would eat little arsenic-laced wafers or mix the poison into face creams. It worked by destroying red blood cells, which gave the skin a delicate, pale complexion. Of course, it also gave you a host of other, less fashionable side effects like hair loss, vomiting, convulsions, and a slow, painful death from poison. It was a beauty routine that literally killed you from the inside out. Fashion kills, but rarely has it been this direct. It's a high price to pay just to look like you're about to die, moments before you actually do. 29. Gout is a famously painful condition that has afflicted kings and commoners alike. And for a time in the Middle Ages, one of the strangest cures involved the Pope himself. Sufferers believed that if they could get their hands on a pair of the Pope's old shoes, they could cure their gout by smearing the shoes all over their swollen, painful feet. The logic was that the Pope, being God's representative on earth, had feet so holy that his residual holiness in the shoes could perform miracles. This led to a black market for papal footwear. It's a perfect fusion of religious fervor and medical desperation. You have to wonder if it had to be a specific pope, or if any holy man's stinky old leather shoes would do the trick. 30. Here's a piece of ancient medical wisdom that's as bizarre as it is completely free. According to some old texts, a powerful cure for various skin conditions was your own saliva. But not just any saliva. It was believed to be most potent when you were hungry. So the prescription was to wake up in the morning, before eating, and hawk up a good amount of that fasting spittle and rub it on your sores, rashes, or blemishes. The reasoning behind why hungry spit was stronger is lost to history, but it likely involves some belief that your body's vital energies were more concentrated when your stomach was empty. It's a DIY skincare routine that requires zero products, just an empty stomach and a complete and utter lack of shame. 31. Let's revisit the Renaissance and their obsession with the Belelladana plant. If poisoning your eyes with drops wasn't dramatic enough for you, there was another, more hardcore method to get those sought-after dilated pupils. You could touch a berry of the deadly nightshade plant directly to your tongue. The small amount of toxin absorbed would be enough to make your pupils widen, giving you that same vacant, alluring look. This was a quicker, on-the-go version for the woman who needed to look beautiful right now. Of course, it came with all the same risks, plus the added bonus of potentially misjudging the dose and just straight-up poisoning yourself to death in the name of fashion. It was the Renaissance equivalent of doing your makeup in a moving car, but with significantly higher stakes. 32. By the early 20th century, syphilis was still a huge problem, but we had a new weapon against it: heat. Doctors discovered that high fevers could kill the syphilis bacteria. So how do you safely induce a high, prolonged fever? You don't. You infect the patient with malaria. The doctor who came up with this, Julius Wagner Jauregg, literally won a Nobel Prize for it. The plan was to give a syphilis patient malaria, let the recurring, sky-high fevers cook the syphilis bacteria to death, and then cure the malaria with quinine. It was a brutal, high-stakes gamble, a medical strategy that involved fighting a monster by sicking an entirely different but slightly more manageable monster on it. It's like trying to get a rat out of your house by releasing a cobra. Sure, it might work, but your list of problems has definitely changed. 33. After the discovery of radium, the world went a little nuts for radiation. Companies put it in everything, including face cream. Brands like Thoradia were sold in Paris, promising women a radiant glow. These creams contained actual thorium and radium, radioactive elements that were supposed to stimulate skin cells and create a youthful, vibrant complexion. Women would slather this radioactive paste all over their faces every night, hoping to achieve an atomic-level beauty. What they were actually doing was giving themselves a localized dose of radiation, increasing their risk of cancer and skin lesions. It wasn't a healthy glow. It was the literal glow of radioactive material. It was the ultimate beauty lie, promising radiance while delivering radiation. These people weren't evil, just confident and completely wrong. So, which of our current treatments will look just as insane in 200 years? Chemo? Antidepressants? Hormone therapy? Something we're not even thinking about? Drop your raw opinion in the comments. And if you like your history dark, dumb, and 100% real, hit like and subscribe.